People often think healing starts when the medicine kicks in, when the report changes, when the symptoms go away. But the truth is, healing starts long before that. It starts the moment you decide to believe fully, deeply, without hesitation, that you can be healed, that something greater than your illness is at work within you, that there is a force beyond doctors, beyond pills, beyond diagnosis, that can change everything in an instant. Belief is not passive. It's not sitting around hoping something will change. It's active. It's a decision to lean in, to trust even when everything around you screams otherwise. And that belief, that unshakable certainty that healing is possible, it ignites something. It opens a door, not just metaphorically, but literally. Your body starts responding. Your cells start listening. Your mind begins aligning with that faith. And suddenly, what looked like a wall starts to crack. What seemed impossible now starts to feel different. Here's the part most people miss. Your body listens to your beliefs. Your heart, your immune system, your nervous system, they all respond to what you expect. If you expect to stay sick, if you believe this is permanent, your body gets the message. But when you start believing that this can change, that healing is on the way, your system begins to shift. It doesn't mean you ignore symptoms or avoid treatment. It means you don't let the diagnosis become your identity. You believe deeper than the disease. We've been taught to believe in facts. And sure, facts are real. The scan shows what it shows. The report says what it says. But there's something more real than facts, and that's truth. The truth is that healing is not just possible. It's waiting. And belief is the key that unlocks it. Not just surface-level belief, not just I kinda hope this works. I mean deep-rooted, blood-level, soul-level belief. The kind that makes you walk differently, pray differently, speak differently. Because when you believe fully, you start aligning with the outcome you want instead of the condition you're in. You stop calling it permanent. You stop saying, "This is my life now." You stop repeating what the doctors said like it's prophecy. You start declaring what's possible. You begin to live from the place of healing, not from the place of hurting. That's what real belief does. It shifts the atmosphere around you. People ask, can a simple prayer really heal someone in seconds? And the answer is, it's not about the simplicity of the prayer. It's about the depth of the belief behind it. Words are just words unless they're powered by faith. And when you believe without fear, without holding back, something supernatural happens. It might not make sense logically, but that's the point. Healing isn't logical, it's spiritual. You don't have to know how it will happen. You just have to believe that it can. And when that belief takes root, you stop waiting for healing, you start walking in it. You stop begging for a breakthrough, you begin to expect it. That energy, that confidence, that faith, it's not fake optimism. It's a real force, and it shifts things faster than we think. So if you're struggling, if you're battling something that feels like it's never going to leave, I want you to pause. I want you to get still, and I want you to ask yourself, do I really believe healing is possible for me? Not for other people, not in theory, but for me. Because if you do, even just a little, then that spark is already enough to light a fire. And that fire, that belief, is where the healing begins. Prayer isn't about closing your eyes, whispering desperate words, and hoping something out there hears you. It's not about begging. It's not about performing. It's about alignment. It's about connection. Real prayer is when you stop trying to force your way and instead open yourself up to a higher one. When you let go of the outcome and start trusting the process, that's where the power is. That's where healing begins, not in the words, but in the surrender behind them. Too many people treat prayer like a last resort. Like it's what you do after everything else fails. They say, I've tried everything, all that's left now is to pray. But what if it's not the last option? What if it's the first and only one that truly aligns you with what's already available to you? See, prayer isn't about convincing God to do something. It's about getting yourself into a place where you can receive what's already yours. Healing isn't something you earn by praying hard enough. It's something you align with when your spirit is ready. And alignment doesn't happen through panic. It doesn't happen when you're scared and frustrated and angry, and you just start throwing words into the air, hoping for a miracle. Alignment happens when you get quiet inside, when you stop trying to control every detail, when you breathe and you say, okay, I trust, I surrender, I believe you know more than I do. That's the prayer that moves heaven. That's the prayer that shifts your energy. That's the prayer that releases healing, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Sometimes we confuse prayer with performance. We think we need to say the right words in the right tone with the right verses quoted. But none of that is necessary when you're aligned. When you're aligned, even a whisper is enough. Even silence is enough. Because alignment is about heart posture, not volume. And the second your heart aligns with truth, healing flows in. You ever wonder why some people pray for years and nothing happens, and someone else prays one time and everything changes? It's not luck. It's not favoritism. It's alignment. One person is praying from fear. The other is praying from faith. One is hoping. The other is knowing. There's a massive difference between the two. Hoping still leaves room for doubt. Knowing shuts the door on it completely. That's the space where healing explodes in the knowing. And you don't need to understand how. You don't need to map it out or explain it. You just need to align, to drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, quiet your racing mind, and fall into that space where your spirit and the divine finally meet. That's what real prayer is. It's not asking for a favor. It's reconnecting with your source. And when that connection is restored, healing isn't something you chase. It's something you attract. Because when you're aligned, you don't have to chase healing. It chases you. You don't have to fight for answers. They rise up from within you. You don't have to manipulate or convince or strive. You just become a magnet for breakthrough because you're no longer resisting. You're no longer doubting. You're finally in position to receive what's already flowing toward you. So no, prayer is not a transaction. It's not a checklist. It's transformation. It's the shift that happens inside of you when you stop trying to get something from God and start learning how to be with Him. That's when healing happens, in the space of trust, of surrender, of total alignment. And in that space, the impossible becomes inevitable. Most people think prayer is about asking hard enough, crying loud enough, or repeating the right words until heaven finally pays attention. But that's not what real prayer is. Real prayer isn't begging for a miracle. It's not pleading with desperation. It's alignment. It's stepping into the presence of something greater and saying, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm in agreement with what you've already set in motion. When you're sick, when your body is failing you, when every part of your life feels like it's shutting down, your natural instinct is to fight harder, scream louder, do more. But prayer that heals, real, immediate, powerful healing doesn't come from striving. It comes from surrender. It's when you finally stop wrestling for control and say, I trust you. I align with you. I'm not here to change your will. I'm here to connect with it. That's where the breakthrough lies. We've been conditioned to think prayer is about trying to convince God to do something. That if we cry enough or ask enough or say it just right, He'll move. But that mindset is rooted in fear, and fear never brings healing. Fear keeps you in a cycle of desperation, waiting for proof before you'll believe. But alignment flips that. Alignment says, I'll believe first, even if there's no evidence yet. I'll stand in faith, not in fear. I'll rest instead of panic. And it's in that rest, that stillness, that agreement between your soul and the divine, that healing finds you. That's when things begin to shift, not because you earned it with effort, but because you got out of the way. Think about how many times you've prayed while your mind was still racing. Your heart was filled with doubt, and your words were soaked in fear. Now compare that to the rare moments when you were still, calm, present. That's when you feel it right. That peace, that certainty, that presence that tells you, I've already handled it. Because that's the truth. So often we're praying for things that are already available. We're praying from a place of lack when heaven is offering abundance. We're asking for healing like it's being withheld when it's already flowing. We're just not aligned to receive it. Alignment means tuning your spirit to the frequency of faith. It means dropping your resistance, shutting out the noise, and stepping into the vibration of healing, even before it shows up in your body. That kind of prayer changes your posture. You stop praying like a victim and start praying like a child who knows their parent is listening. You stop speaking as if you're distant from God and start speaking like you're standing in the middle of His presence, which you are. You stop panicking and start praising, not because the healing has shown up, but because you know it's already on the way. And that praise, that peace, that unwavering faith, it activates things in the spirit that medicine can't touch. I want to be clear, this isn't about ignoring pain or pretending you're not struggling. It's about choosing how you respond to it. Do you respond with fear, with frantic pleading, with frustration? Or do you respond with confidence, with expectation, with alignment? When you shift from performing in prayer to aligning in prayer, your whole energy changes. You move from resistance to receptivity, from chaos to calm, from delay to immediacy, because when you're aligned, the healing doesn't need to fight its way in. It just flows. Your body, your mind, your spirit, they become ready. Ready to receive, ready to respond. And that readiness, that agreement between your heart and heaven, is what makes healing in seconds not just possible, but natural. You're not forcing a miracle, you're stepping into one. And when you do, everything changes. There's a reason some people speak and nothing changes, while others speak a single sentence and everything shifts. It's not the volume, not the language, not the tone. It's the authority behind the words, the power that flows through them. You see, disease responds to the physical, but it submits to the spiritual. The body can be treated, but the spirit commands. And there's one thing that carries that authority in its purest, most undeniable form. The name above all names. The one that doesn't beg sickness to leave, but commands it to flee. When you speak that name in faith, not as a habit, not as tradition, but as a spiritual weapon, you're not just releasing sound, you're releasing dominion. You are not pleading for healing like someone who is powerless. You are declaring it like someone who already carries the victory. That name carries weight not because of how often it's spoken, but because of the belief and alignment behind it. You can't just say it, you have to mean it from the core of your being. You have to speak it like you know the truth it carries, like your whole soul stands behind it. There's something powerful that happens when you stop approaching your illness like it's bigger than you, like it's something you're under. You're not under anything. You were never meant to be. You were made to walk in authority, to speak life over your body, to use that name with confidence and not hesitation. Because when you hesitate, you leave the door open for doubt. But when you stand firm, when you speak that name like you know what it means, every force working against your healing has to back down. Disease doesn't understand sympathy. It understands power, and power doesn't have to scream. It doesn't have to prove anything. It just speaks, and the atmosphere changes. That's why the name matters. That's why it's not just about what you say, but what backs you when you say it. When you speak healing over your life in that name, it's not just your voice that echoes. It's heaven's. It's divine authority, and there is no illness, no diagnosis, no report that can override that. You've got to stop letting your condition define your reality. Stop rehearsing the symptoms. Stop magnifying what's wrong. Start declaring what's true. Start using the name that doesn't ask sickness for permission. It removes it. And I get it, it's hard when you're in pain, when you've been waiting for years, when nothing seems to work. But that's exactly when your authority matters most. When everything in you wants to stay quiet, but you choose to speak anyway, not out of desperation, but out of conviction. And let me be clear, it's not about pretending you're not hurting. It's not about denying the diagnosis. It's about denying its finality. It's about refusing to give it the last word. The last word belongs to the one who made your body, not the one who measured it. And when you speak healing through that name, you're not throwing words into the wind. You're standing on the very foundation that can recreate what's been broken. You're not hoping, you're enforcing. You may not feel powerful, especially when your body is tired, when your heart is heavy, when your faith feels thin. But your authority doesn't come from how you feel. It comes from who you're connected to. And that connection gives you access to a name that makes demons flee, that calms storms, that silences pain, that rewrites outcomes in a second. So speak it, not as a question, but as a declaration, not as a habit, but as a command. Speak it over your body, over your mind, over your life. Because the moment you stop waiting for healing and start declaring it, the game changes. You're no longer reacting to your condition. You're confronting it. And when you do it with that name, with that authority, with that alignment, healing doesn't just become possible. It becomes inevitable. You can't hold on to everything and expect healing to move freely through you. There's a point where you have to choose. Do I really want to be healed? Or do I just want the pain to stop temporarily? Because healing, true, immediate, transformational healing, comes at the cost of control. And for a lot of people, that's the real issue. They pray for a miracle with one hand while gripping tightly to fear, pride, resentment, or the need to understand everything with the other. But healing doesn't work that way. It doesn't coexist with resistance. It flows through surrender, and I don't mean surface level surrender, the kind where you say, I trust you. But deep down you're still anxious, still making backup plans, still trying to calculate every outcome. I'm talking about that kind of surrender where you let go completely. You throw your hands up not in defeat, but in full trust. That moment when you finally say, even if I don't understand it, even if it doesn't look like what I expected, I'm still all in. That's when something shifts. That's when healing doesn't trickle in, it rushes in. You've probably seen it happen before. Someone fights and fights, trying everything, and nothing works. But then there's this moment, a breaking point, a deep release, and suddenly their energy changes. Their words change, their posture changes. It's like something inside them let go of the outcome, let go of the fear, let go of the pressure. And then boom, the healing comes. Not because they gave up, but because they finally got out of the way. It's strange, isn't it? How hard it is to truly let go, even when we know we're not in control. We say we trust God, but then we try to manage every symptom, every emotion, every variable. We say we believe in miracles, but only if they happen in the way we think they should. That's not surrender, that's negotiation, and healing doesn't come through negotiation. It comes through submission. It comes when you stop bargaining and start believing, when you don't just say the words, but you mean them with every fiber of who you are. Sometimes, what's blocking your healing isn't the illness. It's the part of you that won't release, the part that's still holding on to trauma, the part that still believes you have to suffer, the part that's convinced it's too late, or that you don't deserve it, or that healing is for someone else. But the second you surrender that, when you hand over the guilt, the shame, the fear, the timeline, you create space. And in that space, healing has room to move. You've got to stop managing your pain like it's a permanent tenant. You've got to stop rehearsing the story of how long you've been sick, how many times it hasn't worked, how much it hurts. You have to get to that raw, honest place where you say, I surrender not just my pain, but my identity that's been wrapped around it. I'm done wearing this illness like it's part of me. Because when you do that, you shift from surviving to transforming. You stop waiting for healing like it's a far-off dream, and you start experiencing it like it's already unfolding. Letting go is terrifying, I know that, because it means giving up control. It means admitting you don't have all the answers. But that's exactly where healing lies. In that tension between fear and trust, between holding on and letting go. And the moment you surrender fully, everything begins to move. It may not look how you imagined, and it may not follow your schedule, but it will come. Not because you earned it, but because you finally aligned with it. You don't need to do more. You need to release more. The pain, the doubt, the urge to fix everything, let it go. Step into that space of total surrender. That's where miracles happen. Words carry energy. And the words you speak about your life, about your body, about your situation, those words are either building your healing or building your bondage. Most people don't realize how much damage they're doing to themselves simply by what they say. They walk around saying things like, my cancer, my anxiety, my disease, and they don't even see it. But every time those words come out of their mouth, they're claiming ownership. They're giving that sickness a nameplate on the door of their soul. They're saying, this belongs to me. But healing doesn't live in ownership of illness. It lives in the rejection of it. You cannot receive something new while clinging to something broken. You can't walk in wholeness while confessing weakness. You have to start speaking life, not labels. Labels limit you. They keep you trapped in a story that was never meant to define you. But life opens doors. Life renews, life rebuilds. And when you speak it boldly, with conviction, with belief, things start changing. Your body listens, your spirit responds, your atmosphere shifts. This isn't about pretending you're not sick. It's not about living in denial. It's about choosing not to give sickness more power than it already has. It's about saying, yes, I see what the doctor said, but I'm not building my life on that report. I'm building it on truth. Truth says you were made for healing. Truth says your body was designed to recover, to restore, to regenerate. And when your words start reflecting that truth, healing begins to rise up inside of you. You have to become very intentional with what you speak. Every time you say, I'll never get better, you're planting that seed deeper. Every time you say, this is just how it is now, you're reinforcing the very thing you want to be free from. Your words are not just expressions, they're instructions. You are either commanding your body toward healing or commanding it to stay in suffering. And you get to choose, moment by moment, which direction your words are sending you in. It's not always easy, especially when pain is screaming louder than your hope. It's hard to say, I'm healed, when your body feels broken. It's hard to say, I'm whole, when you're crying yourself to sleep. But that's the moment when it matters most. That's when you push back against what you feel and stand in what you believe. Because faith isn't about seeing. It's about speaking before the breakthrough. It's about aligning your voice with heaven's truth, even when earth's reality hasn't caught up yet. Start speaking to your body like it's already healed. Start blessing your organs, your bones, your cells. Start declaring life over your immune system, your mind, your heart. Don't wait for evidence to start speaking faith. Speak faith to create the evidence. Say it even when it feels silly. Say it when no one believes you. Say it when everything in your life says you're crazy. Because healing begins the moment you stop speaking the language of sickness and start speaking the language of heaven. Rispelled FEL right. Becomes it won't e clearer. Watch how peace starts replacing anxiety. It's not magic, it's spiritual law. You reap what you speak. And when you speak life, life grows. When you speak healing, healing begins to rise. When you refuse to call something yours that was never meant for you, that thing starts to lose its grip. Your words matter, your agreement matters. And if you want to walk in healing, you've got to talk like it's already yours. So stop labeling what you're meant to overcome. Stop rehearsing the pain and start declaring the promise. Speak life with every breath, because what you speak becomes what you live. Healing prayer isn't soft. It's not a quiet hope whispered into the dark. It's not a casual request tossed into the heavens, waiting to see if something responds. Healing prayer is a cry from the deepest part of you, a bold declaration that refuses to back down. It's not passive, it's not polite, it's war. And when you pray like that, when you come into agreement with heaven and refuse to shrink under the weight of pain, that's when things begin to break. That's when the atmosphere shifts. That's when healing moves not slowly, not eventually, but in seconds. There's this idea that prayer should always be gentle, that we should come meekly, softly, as if we're uncertain of our right to speak. But that's not how healing happens, because when you're in a battle, you don't whisper. You roar, you don't tiptoe. You stand tall. You don't hope for mercy. You declare your authority. Healing doesn't respond to timidity. It responds to faith. Not shaky faith, not maybe it will work faith. Fierce, focused, fully anchored faith. The kind that stands toe-to-toe with disease and says, "You don't belong here." That's the kind of prayer that releases power. The kind that calls on everything you believe in and commands healing. Not asks for it, not negotiates for it, commands it. Because when you're aligned with the truth, you don't have to ask permission to be healed. You don't have to plead for something that's already been made available. You step into that place of spiritual certainty, and you speak like someone who knows the outcome has already been written. That's when you pray differently. That's when you stop repeating words and start releasing power. It's not about shouting louder. It's about standing taller inside. It's not about being emotional for the sake of emotion. It's about praying with conviction so deep it can't be moved. And that kind of prayer doesn't come from your mouth alone. It comes from your gut. It comes from the fire in your spirit that refuses to accept defeat, no matter how long the battle has gone on. Because you know what's yours. You know what was promised, and you're not walking away without it. There's a strength inside of you that you've barely tapped into. It doesn't live in logic. It doesn't live in fear. It lives in that sacred place where faith takes over, where you're no longer begging God to intervene. You're partnering with Him in authority. You're not waiting for healing to maybe arrive. You're calling it forward now, in this moment, because you've aligned your heart, your words, your belief, and your will with His. That unity, that alignment, is where power is born. And when you pray from that place, you're not just speaking into the air. You're issuing a spiritual decree. You're shaking foundations. You're commanding your body to listen. You're telling pain it no longer has a place. You're confronting every lie, every fear, every symptom with truth that doesn't waver. That's the cry of a warrior. That's the cry of someone who doesn't just believe in healing. They expect it, and that expectation is everything. Because God responds to faith, not performance. He responds to alignment, not anxiety. And when your faith is on fire, when your heart is open, when your voice speaks with authority instead of fear, things start happening that no one can explain. Suddenly, what was stuck starts to move. What was broken begins to heal. What was labeled incurable starts to fade. Not because you found the perfect words, but because you tapped into the perfect truth and refused to let go. So stop whispering when the moment demands a roar. Stop shrinking back when your healing is standing right in front of you. Rise up, speak boldly. Pray like someone who knows exactly who they are and what they carry. Healing responds to that kind of certainty, and when you release it, heaven moves.